Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. Spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. Got a lot of stories about the dumb stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened when I was actually in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison, you want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So this story I actually have a souvenir from. It's at my mom's house. We keep it in this box by the TV. It's like this book, but it's not really a book, you know, it opens up and you put stuff in it, like just a decorational thing. And this actual sheet is in there that I'll talk about in a minute, that I will get it and take a picture and put on here because it's that funny. So, I was not living at home from a young age. I was driving for a biggest deal in my city, you know, at 16, bouncing place to place and everything else. And there were a couple times. There are more different places that I lived that I have stories about than I can even tell you. This was an unusual one, you know. Can't remember what the situation was, but it was a friend, a couple friends, a couple that was friends with my mom. See, my mom's got a small business. She's really well loved in the community. She's done more stuff for people that I will never know about, helping them when had times when they were down, that I find about every day. Like, my mom's a saint. Like, seriously, she's a saint. And she's really loved. So something that happened a few times was people try to get in good with my mom through me. Like, you know, like it's like almost like she's a local celebrity. Okay, she ran for office back when I was in jail before I made bond for my federal charges. And almost won. It was, you know, but it was, I think she got like 42% of the vote. But anyway, didn't win that, but she had ran for office back in Radford, and she was like the vice mayor, I believe, of Radford, back when she was pregnant with me. Have to ask her specifics on that. But anyway, she's a known light person, everything else. She's got her small business as she runs, and I could have had a whole lot nicer life. I mean, I was living couch to couch, gutter as could be. You know, having to sell in order to make sure I had food to eat, because she wasn't going to condone that. Wasn't going to condone that line. She, you know, shouldn't have. And she did what, you know, she thought was best at that time, and, you know, you can't say anything wrong about it. She's everything that has been done to help me be good now is because of her. But anyway, his couple, the guy of the couple, it's like, well, you know, you should come stay with us and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. You know, knowing I was going to be running around selling dope and stuff during the day, and he talks me into it and everything else. And they live in this like prestigious community in our area that they have overpriced houses in, and they had like a normal size house, but because probably a little smaller than typical, but they paid like an absurd amount just so then they could be a part of this community. Why do that? I'd get a big house at somewhere, you know, out in the country or something, cost a whole lot less, have a whole lot more room to move around. That's like this old house I'm living in. You know, this old house right here, shoot, I don't even think this thing costs like, it's like $70,000-$80,000 if I remember correctly. You know, ain't nothing but $600 a month. And this thing's huge. I mean, it's like 2,300 square feet, and it's out in the middle of the country. But they got a house about a third of the size of this one, not a whole lot bigger. Yeah, I've seen apartments bigger in this house. And to be a part of that prestige, you know, the dude was cool. He's cool, but the wife was a little bit nutty. I mean, like nuttier than a squirrel turd. You know, a couple chicken nuggets short of a Happy Meal. She has weird random tics. Like just one time, I remember we were standing there talking with my mom, you know, and she just, in the middle, we're talking about something just completely, and she just keeps rubbing this spot in her face and making these eyes. And, you know, my mom, you know, if somebody does something weird enough, long enough, my mom having that, like, probably autism that we both have or whatever, like, where we're just like, we can't ignore it. She's like, are you okay? She's like, I've got this mole right here. I'm worried it might be cancerous. And her husband's like, no, it's probably just as it. You're just going through puberty. We all laughed about it, but she had been serious. But she was like the type that, like, if she feels, she'll take something the wrong way and do something real passive-aggressively back. Like, she'll say some passive-aggressive stuff, like to try to have you thinking later on about it. Happened the last time I seen it. But anyway, dude was good. Dude was a saint. Husband, I gotta say that. But, you know, anyway, so I agreed to go to the house. Before that, I was living, I've talked about these two apartments. The one apartment I sold out of, the one across the hall was like the trap apartment. Well, before that, the one across the hall actually had stuff in it. It was living in that, me and my buddy, we were both living in that. Basically, served to the couch. He had an apartment, he had credit. I was a dope man, so had a place to stay. So it was at that point. And, it was there. He'd moved out and a lot of the furniture was out. It wasn't good living conditions at that point. There was like a bed, a table, a TV, and a DVD player that we'd watch ripped off movies. They got like this ghetto gas station, or not even a gas station, just a Quick Mart in the ghetto in Roanoke, where they sell all the ripped off movies, but some of them are incredible quality. So I'd go down there and load up. There was a time when I was selling dope, this before Netflix and Hulu, where I'd spend $50 a day for probably years straight, $50 to $100 a day buying movies. Because didn't have cable or anything, didn't know how to get in my name, as a teenage drug dealer. So I'd go to the FYE and buy these movies every day. But the ripped off movies I liked because they were still in theaters. But anyway, I moved into their house, and they're big in the church and all that, in this church thing. So they got this thing. It's like this, it's not church, but it's like this group. So we go to this house, this random house that's like where the people meet at. And there's this dude. He's probably about 30 years old, dressed overly nice, and he gives this toast talking about his people in New York did this and this and this, and he just seems smug and fake. Come to find out, that dude, he like moved down here and like conned a lady who was in the church and to live in her house, not working at all, basically just free riding. He'd give these speeches at these little places and stuff like that. Now see, at least me, I was an addict. This dude's just a weirdo that came down. He's like, I'm trying to find myself and all that, and he gossip behind your back. I'll get to that in a minute. So I'd go to the house. They give me the rules, the basic stuff, and basically, the dude was just trying to give me a place to sleep. Well, she took it upon herself to make me like a little servant. Everything was expected to clean. They had a water filtration system that was $10,000 that filtered the dirty water that's given to normal people and made it exclusive water. And it had like a thing, it makes it like bubbles, carbonated, and these special glass bottles, and I was expected to refill all these, clean this, do that. But the funniest list was I got like a 2-page long list of what to do for the cats on a daily basis. Okay, cats usually just like use a litter box. Well, her cat, I guess because she's special, she might drive her cats crazy too. They had a pee pad. I thought that was just for dogs. So they got a pee pad, and got to change the pee pads for the cat. I had to put on a movie, but it was spelled like a meowvie that the cats are supposed to watch every day. Yeah, like cats had to move. There was like this list. I got to get the list. I can't even remember everything on it, but I was expected to put on a movie. I never put on a movie for the cats. It seems stupid. I didn't do it. But said I did. And everything else. And this list for the cats, it was insane. And we got the list. It's still got it at my mom's house. I'll get it. It's hilarious. So I'm sleeping there at night, and I'm doing my thing during the day. Now, since these people were good enough to let me live in their house, it's a nice house. It's better than living, in Section 8 apartment that I was living in. I respected that. Now, when people just like, I didn't do people wrong that I didn't feel like deserved it, even as an addict. Now, I'd steal everything. I've had bad times, stuff like that, but I didn't take nothing ever. Only thing I took, oh man, I'll talk about later. What they had a big old liquor cabinet. Big old liquor cabinet, every different type of liquor. Yeah, I drank some. I drank a good bit of their liquor, but that was about it. Never took nothing out of it. None of their stuff, nothing like that. They can't say it. Never happened. But I have to make up a life where I'm going during the day, because they know I got issues and stuff. So I told them something about I got a job washing dishes at like a Ruby Tuesdays or Fridays or something. So they thought that's where I was going during the day. Meanwhile, I was going to the apartment, having people stopping by, hustling, everything else, and I'm doing the wrong thing. Everything I'm doing the wrong thing. And every day I get back to this house, and I figure, shoot, come back to this nice house. It's a nice bed. It's actually got, a frame. I'm not sleeping on like a mattress on the floor. This ain't bad. I can deal with some of this weird stuff. The dude was a saint. never, just always nice, was always cool, always respectful. And I didn't make noise, didn't bother them. I mostly just stayed in that room and watched TV, which had cable, which I enjoyed because I didn't have it at the Section 8 house. But I'd sail during the day and I'd come back there during the, and sometimes I'd be there for part of the day, part of my morning and stuff and everything else, and I'd run through the little thing. But my excuse for being gone so much, we went to those little church gatherings, like I said. So I'm having to be a part of like this group. There was one girl that looked decent, was close to my age, so I tried to talk to her and everything else. But, this dude, the guy who I said like the con artist that came down, he doesn't have a car or nothing. He's just living with some random woman from the church, not working nothing, just giving toasts at this weekly thing that they go to at the church. And like I just didn't like him anyway, but somehow, I got lumped in the group, and I gave him my phone number. He asked me if I'd pick him up and drive him somewhere to do something, one other church people, something like that. So I pick him up. I'm driving my S2000 at this point. It's a Tuesday, and he gets in. He's like, "Oh, nice car." And then I'm like, "Oh, thanks, bud. I appreciate it." And he's like, "Well, sorry for you having to come over and pick me up." And it seemed nice, but then I said, "Yeah, it's all good. You got me out of having to do, cleaning the house and some of that stuff, doing some of the extra stuff, gets me into that. I don't mind driving you around a bit. I've just been stuck there doing that." I think that was before claiming I was working as a dishwasher, which wasn't happening. I knew they'd come in a restaurant and they wouldn't see me if I said I was in the dish room. They wouldn't ask, because that'd be weird. So that was just something that I said. And he heard me say that, and I took him. Everything was normal. Later, I ended up talking to my mom, and she tells me that this douchebag told her, the people I'm living with, told the woman that he later on, whenever I'm out hustling, that he went over to the house and he said, "Well, he said blah, 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 this, and that, so I figured I'd come over here and help." Made me look like a douche, went over there, offered his services, and I mean, that was wrong as could be. It went behind my back like a gossiping little girl. He said it'd get him out of cleaning, so he went over to offer to clean, had him picked up and everything. I thought, you douche. And see, I was from a world where, you don't do stuff like that. Like, you do something like that, there's going to be an issue. So I'm having to deal with this like passive aggressive weird, this little community, and I'm like, man, I want to smack this guy, and I'm getting real aggravated because there was a couple times like he twisted what I said, and I wasn't saying anything bad, and I wasn't doing any deals out of the house, anything like that. I was going over, I was living two lives. I was living the one life with them, and I was doing it good, and I was doing everything right when I was in the house. I wasn't breaking, wasn't doing anything that, taking anything like that. And when I said stuff, I didn't say anything with any harm. And it's not like, I'm dumb and was saying stuff that was offensive. This guy was one of those people that likes to make people look bad to make himself look good. See, it happened a couple times, but anyway, meanwhile, I'm still going over to that apartment and doing my thing there and everything else. I'm telling the people, they're like, I was telling them about the cat thing, and I even had that piece of paper. I don't know how that piece of paper survived. This has been like, God, it's been like 15 so years ago. I still got the paper though. I'm going to get that put up on here. As funny as could be. And when he said that to her, obviously that soured her towards me. Now she's a little bit annoying anyway, and she's past the man of the house, the guy whose house it was. He was cool. Never say something bad about nobody, nothing. He was just a saint of a man. Had to deal with this crazy woman, still does. And she started. I noticed when I heard later on that he had said stuff to her that she'd complain about me not doing certain stuff right. I didn't load up enough of their carbonated bottles of water. They only drink so many a day. Why? They got all these, and they never were without the carbonated, filtrated water through their 15,000 filtration system. And did all this stuff I wasn't used to. Try not to say too much put out there, but there was something we had to do going door to door. I took my time doing all that for hours and everything, and I was trying, but this guy kept irking me. And so what ultimately ended up happening, one day it was at one of these, we went to this house. It feels like this house wasn't somewhere somebody lived in. It feels like this house was just a place for those meetings. I don't know if all the rich church people bought a house just to have a place to have their little parties at. But we went over there, and I pulled him aside. I said, "Listen, man, I said, you know about my history, right? You know a little bit about me, right? Well, I knew you had issues with drugs. I said, no. I said, it's a little bit deeper than that. I had issues with selling drugs, getting in trouble for it. You know, I said I done kidnapped a few people, everything else. And here I've got somebody talking behind my back, and it's creating an issue for them. Oh, are you threatening me? And, you know, like everything changed. I'm like, no, I don't do that stuff. I said, just don't talk about me. And I'm smiling when I'm saying, I'm like, it's easy. Just don't do this gossiping girl stuff. I said, I don't come from this world where you do this stuff to make yourself look better. I said, I come from a different world. I don't put up with that stuff. Oh, well, that was a whole big issue. I got sat down and talked to and everything else about that. And then I talked to him, and, you know, the guy of the house was cool about it. He understood. He actually was listening, but the one, she still didn't like it. I guess it possibly made it look like maybe I was saying stuff like that. And I wasn't. I was grateful to have a nice place to sleep. I mean, if I wanted to, I could have robbed them blind. Shoot, they wouldn't be able to prove it. I had enough fences. I had this guy who owned this place. There was this place. It wasn't even a pawn shop. It wasn't technically a pawn shop. He'd buy stuff, and he'd keep it in the back. We had to understand, and that was where I took my chopped up jewelry to him. If I wanted to, I could have took everything they had. They couldn't prove a dang thing about it. In order to prove somebody stole something, you got to find where they sold it at, or have video evidence of them stealing it. I could have took everything they had, and they couldn't have done nothing about it, you know. But I didn't, because I respected that they were giving me a place to sleep. And I was trying to do this little, you know, thing, this community, but it was the fakest bunch of people that I've ever seen. Like, every time somebody walked away from a group of people, there'd be at least one person whispering to the other person about that person. I don't think one of them had a friend among any of them. They pretended they were this happy community, and they were just the most miserable people that wanted to look like they were pride and prestige. So, you know, at this point, I was still using an active addiction and dealing. You know, like I said, my best decisions got me most of my 20s taken to federal prison. But, you know, I'm getting my nerves irked by the whole community, the whole thing, all this stuff, right? So, you know, I'm basically trying to stay gone. I'm trying to do what is wanted of me to be done. You know, I'm trying to stay in the room till they're gone, get all the stuff done, stay gone till night, and just come back there to sleep. I did that for a little bit. And I think it irked her that she didn't have somebody to fuss at, that she didn't have somebody to just chew out, you know, everything else. And I remember the night that it happened. You know, I did have a bottle of liquor. That was one thing. But I mean, it's a bottle of liquor. Come on now. You spent like $1 million on a house that's on a tiny house just to be private and prestigious. You're going to complain about a $20, $40 bottle of liquor? Come on now. And you know, I'd done some blow, and you know, I was using liquor to come down off it. I was laying in bed getting ready to go to sleep. Lights are off in the room. Lights are off in the room. TV's on. I couldn't sleep without the TV on back then. It's on low. She walks in, and I'm laying there, you know, coming off the blood, got liquor, and she just starts in on me about anything and everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to it, thinking, okay, she'll shut up in a minute. She'll shut up in a minute. But you know how when people are mad, and it's not just they're going to say what they're going to say, and then they're going to walk away. They're going to say, well, do this, and ask you a question. Like it was like that. I dealt with that for probably about 20 minutes. I was very patient. I said, I got to get out of here. No, I'm done with this. Get somebody else to be your servant. I said, I appreciate the time to sleep here, but I said, I can't be talked to like this. I said, you know, I've got a very big patience for stuff, and I said, I don't know if I don't leave right now, I don't know how long you're going to keep on telling me about how bad I am and how lucky I am just to have a chance to be in this house to do all these little chores for you and everything else. I said, I'm not even eating y'all's food. I'm gone all day. I'm not eating any meals. I said, I'm not causing any money. It's taking a room. I appreciate, you know, having this, but, and she just kept saying stuff back. I took off up out of there. And there's stories among stuff that happened there, but that was the general story of, you know, just an overview of it. Fakest group of people I ever seen in my life. And it ended up being all associated with that preacher. at my bond hearing, a preacher came. He's the cool preacher, you know, tries to be cool with the kids, you know, all that, tries to be the cool preacher, like the, you know, I'm hip, I'm cool, guys, like that guy, you know, weird dude, you know, weird, you know, just some of the stuff he says about something, you know, basically, you know, I believe in God and everything, you know, that's not what I'm saying at all, but like, there are certain people in certain communities, certain churches that are just soured me towards it for a long time. Different ones. They're great ones. They're great churches. They're great people. And, you know, it's like I said, I'm a Christian. But there's certain ones that just, man, it's the whole idea has been twisted. And he was one of those people. And after I made bond, you know, I went up to him at a church. I waited. People always waiting to go up and talk to him after the church service. And they were associated with this guy too. And I went up and talked to him separate from, you know, try to get over the side. I said, listen, thank you for coming up on here. I said, I guess the prayers work. And I was saying it low, and he said loud enough for enough people to hear. My mom heard it. Quit going to church after this. He said, just so you can, and he was like somebody who always smiled at everybody. And he said, just to be clear, I didn't pray you get out. I prayed God's will be done. What you did was horrible. And I'm like, do you even know what happened, dude? Like, are you buying this stuff? And I didn't say it then. I just, you know, like, I felt like Spicoli on Fast Times from Bridgemont High. Like, I wanted to say, you dick. You know, like, it just shocked me. Like, I was like, this guy has always been cool. But he always, like, there were a few other times, other stories I can tell about this guy. You know, one time, you know, before I got kicked out, you know, as a kid, I was like 14, 15, running around hustling. He picked me up. I was twacked out, drove me around and talked about this and that, and talked about how he banged 2 girls on the beach the same night he got baptized and fell asleep drunk on the beach and blah, blah, blah to sound cool. Like, and let it down and said, you know, something about, there's this other guy. I'll leave that one for another day. But, yeah, I'll get that list and I'll show it. I doubt they end up seeing this, but, you know, if they do, I feel bad for the guy because the guy's actually a really good guy, but that woman said something. It's been a few months back, but she said something, one of the passive-aggressive things again. I should have called something on it. It was in my mom's place of business. I was going to go visit my mom, you know, just tell her hello. After judo class every Saturday morning, I go by, see my mom, you know, don't get to see her as much sometimes. So, you know, I go by there, hope she's getting busy, get a minute to talk to her. And that woman was in there saying this stuff, and you know, something got said, and you know, it's kind of what made me think of it. That, and mom pulled out the list and was like, you remember this? Like, yeah, I remember that. I actually took it to I was out on bond in drug court, and we had to go to these drug groups 3 times a week. Had 2 of the best counselors on the planet. They actually helped change my life in a huge way. 2 counselors that were good. I had so many bad counselors that just were awful. These counselors, there were people that showed up and admitted they used, and they were supposed to report that, and they were supposed to go to jail. These counselors wouldn't do it as long as they talk about it. They say, if you talk about it, you know, we're not going to get you put in jail. We want to help you. And when I saw that, it let me trust them. And those counselors, but anyway, that's not the point. I took this instruction list about the cats, and I showed it to the group, and they thought it was made up. And I'm like, no, this is for real. And that was a fun day. They can remember it. The 2 counselors. Anybody who's from Roanoke is in drug court. There's a dude named Bernie. There's a dude named Kevin, and they're 2 incredible counselors. They played a major part in helping change my life. See, I dealt with a lot of bad counselors that were bad people that just didn't know what they were doing, didn't know how to deal with it. And I was defensive. I actually led multiple revolts in rehab against bad counselors and people like that. That's happened multiple times. It happened the first time that I went when I was like a kid and I got sent there. And then it happened when I was in drug court. I had to go to this all day, like things I'd gotten in trouble. I led a revolt against them. Like, you get some counselor that's never done drugs, never went through addiction, you know, coming in there trying to talk down to you. Nah. If you ain't been through it, you don't get to do that. And it's almost a prerequisite to having been an addict to be a good drug counselor. Not always. Bernie, he wasn't. Had family who were addicts, you know. He came up, you know, tough streets, you know, got his degree, did his thing. Had more pairs of shoes than any man you've ever seen. He had gator, ostrich every time he come in. But anyway, yeah, if you liked the video, if you've watched it all the way to this point, press the like button if you liked it, that is. If not, that is 25 minutes and 10 seconds of your life in which you will never get back. But I hope you did. Y'all have a good one.